There's a pencil, right? That's all I need is a pencil. A piece of paper would come in handy, and I'm going to write some dialogue, and it's going to take place in one place with 2 chairs, and that's all I need.
Hello everybody and welcome to Time for Reviews, and today we're doing something a little different. As you know, I like to kind of change things up on the channel when I can. And today we're doing a director's series of reviews, kind of thoughts and opinions in a sense, you know, light and fluffy reactions, and similar to kind of my low-key flicks kind of series, where that's more tailor-made to horror and kind of, you know, specific movies and that kind of genre that I don't think has got much attention. I want to do the same thing here, but talk about some directors, or maybe kind of a series of directors over the next kind of couple of months or so that I think are really fantastic and I don't think get much attention, or I kind of want to put my own 2 cents on. I'm talking about David Mamet and his fantastic kind of extraordinary kind of directing, his stage play writing, and his kind of craftsmanship in terms of dialogue, in terms of characters, in terms of scenery, in terms of just interesting storytelling. And you know me guys, I love my storytelling, I love my characters, and if you can hook me into a world that is so rich and so interesting and you just kind of want to see how it progresses, and it's not conventional, it's not easy, kind of, you know, recognizable compared to other movies, then you've got something quite special. And I've seen about 3 of his movies so far at this current moment. I say technically a 4th one in terms of just kind of, yeah, based on the stage play and directed by someone else. So technically 4 in terms of his work, but 3 actual directed and written movies. He's a director that's really kind of taken me by storm. I'm someone who has really kind of impressed me, and it's interesting because he's definitely a staple kind of screenplay writer, kind of, you know, book writer, kind of thing, character-based writer. And yeah, I don't think many people have heard of him. I didn't hear about him until recently, and I wonder if everyone's the same on the channel also. So I'm going to go backwards a bit and talk about the last movie I saw of his compared to the first movie I saw of his, and go from there pretty much. So let's talk about Oleanna.
I don't understand what anything means. And I walk around from morning till night with this one thought in my head: I'm stupid.
No one thinks you're stupid.
No, what am I?
I think you're angry.
Oleanna was released in 1994, directed by David Mamet, who did the original screenplay and adapted it himself into a live-action movie. And it is a very basic story of 2 people in a location, a couple of exterior shots here and there, and 3 acts, 3 days, and the film plays out for itself. And before I dive into the actual, what the story is and my thoughts and opinions of it impressioningly, I want to talk a little bit about the background. This originally was a stage play. It had a very decent run back in the early 90s, and it got a lot of interesting reception, a lot of boos for different types of reasons, kind of thing. It's very controversial. It had articles based on it, and this is a film which definitely is a film that predicted something that is happening right now within our kind of modern day kind of, you know, zeitgeist, in the sense of kind of, you know, social media and the internet. This is like really like 20, nearly close to 30 years ahead of its time, and very relevant back then, I suppose, within the kind of the changing kind of, you know, mindsets within the kind of the mid-90s leading into the kind of the 2000s, of course. Oleanna is a very interesting film for so many different reasons, and I think it's not a typical film in the sense of, like, you know, how it's approached.
It first frightened me because I'd never imagined that kind of reaction to this play. People used to get into literally fist fights with each other in the lobby, and screaming matches and going home.
Primarily couples.
Primarily couples, that's right, yeah.
Oleanna in the most kind of basic, kind of, you know, stripped down version of kind of, you know, describing what the film is. It is a student, it is a professor, within 3 days, 3 acts, you know, 3 separate days, and the series of escalation that builds up between them. You get one specific day meaning about the professor, one day about the student, and then the kind of the conclusion and the kind of wrap up of the kind of the slice of life, I say, in the sense of this kind of storyline. And it is basically, it escalates to a point where the student accuses the professor of sexual harassment and rape, and it's not a easy subject matter film. And I think this one is very much ahead of its time in terms of what the kind of conversation is trying to say, and it definitely approaches the dialogue and the characters in a very kind of down the middle grey area kind of, you know, placements, in the sense, you know, each character, I say, is not particularly that great. I mean, even the taglines are saying whatever side you take, you're wrong, and that is quite accurate, I would say, to the most part, because, you know, whatever side you're kind of on, they're kind of both right and they're kind of both wrong, and it escalates to a point where they kind of both do something they shouldn't really do. Obviously, one, I would say, more does something that they definitely shouldn't have done, and that just kind of ends it, and that's it. You can't go back from that. Once you cross a certain line, that's it, it's done. But the fact that this film is just purely based on words and purely based on just characters discussing ideas and how words and ideas can be so dangerous, and how interpretation can be so dangerous, and how reactions or just touch or just, you know, what you think is not what I feel. And it definitely is very challenging and unconventional. It very reminds me of the Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp kind of case. Obviously that's been going on, in the sense of, you know, two defining kind of opinions, and we're just in the middle to kind of figure out which one we want to take sides with, or not take sides with, and just kind of let it sink in, let it think. And this is an extreme version of a scenario that's just gone way out of hand. And, you know, you can say what you want, I suppose, about both characters. I definitely got my opinions on it, but I'm going to be very careful what I'm trying to say, because this film I definitely think is very touch and go. I think it's definitely a film that everyone's going to have a different side or a different opinion on. You know, whoever has watched this film, whoever they watched the stage play, whoever watched the film itself, you know, and looking at the comments, looking at the reviews for it, it's very kind of like, you know, to the high fives, to the down ones. You know, some people don't get it, some people love it, some people think it's just one way or the other. And, you know, I think it does a really good job of, I think David Mamet does a really fantastic job of kind of having very specific dialogue and having arguments and having kind of discussions about things, and kind of just questioning about, well, about, you know, student life, in the sense, you know, the young versus the old. And it's definitely got that kind of feel towards it, in terms of, like, you know, the professor is a little pompous, he is a little bit kind of full of himself. He definitely likes the way he speaks, and definitely likes the way he talks, and he's definitely someone who is, you know, got, you know, tenure, and he's got like a loving house, he's got a family, he's got everything made for him, in a sense. And he's taking the student a little bit under his wing, in the sense of, like, okay, she's not very happy about her results, she's not very happy about her grade, and she wants to discuss it. She does not understand, and she wants to understand. And he's taking the opportunity, I suppose, to some level, to kind of gloat, or to kind of, you know, to show off his intellect.
Your final grade is an A.
But the class is only half over.
Your grade for the whole term is an A. If you will come back and meet with me.
You know, wherever the things he does is you would say, is one point of view too much, or, you know, especially there's been the fact that she doesn't want to leave a few times, and, you know, he kind of like pulls her back, and not in the sense of an aggressive or kind of a horrible way. It's just a case of, no, don't leave, let me help you, let me kind of share my knowledge, wherever that's in a kind of, you know, pompous kind of, you know, kind of intellectual kind of, you know, highbrow type way, in the sense, because there's I like the lines in the films where he keeps on saying certain buzzwords, certain words that, you know, that people would say in his kind of field or his kind of craft, and she does not understand it, and she doesn't know what those words mean, and she's like getting frustrated and angry, and he keeps on saying, you're an angry person, the work you're doing isn't good because you are angry, you are confused, you are, you know, you're wanting a certain thing, a certain bracket. And he's got a different viewpoint, because he's gone through the process, he's gone through education, he's a teacher, but he doesn't like being a teacher, but he does like being a teacher. And, you know, he's willing to bend the rules for this person, but to help her. But if he's willing to do that for one person, then you could do it for everyone else. And it's kind of, it kind of challenges your thoughts and opinions on, and your values, I'd say, a little bit on how you approach the situation. You know, is him doing this nice gesture kind of thing in the film as a good thing to her, or was he doing it to kind of, like, I don't know, for selfish reasons? Her character is definitely no saint as well, in the sense of she's quite annoying, she's quite obnoxious, she's very rude in the film, but also she's got a point in some senses. You know, she is part of a student, she is part of the young mindset, and she is free speaking in that sense, and she is someone who's struggling, someone who is paid her debt, or someone who's gone to that, you know, paid a lot of money to go to this private school and to kind of learn this stuff. And if she gets a bad grade, then she cannot process further. And, you know, is it her fault that, you know, the teaching wasn't as good? Is it his fault? Is it my understanding? Am I dumb? No, if he's saying that I'm not dumb, then that's your fault, but he's not going to admit that. So it's a case of back and forth kind of thing. I really like that. And each day is definitely something a little bit different. Second day is definitely much more of an escalation in terms of her point of view and how it kind of dives into a bigger thing. She's taking notes, and, you know, it leads to a kind of very nasty kind of, I'm going to go to the board and, you know, take everything that you weaponize everything that you've just said to me in private, everything you've said to me in confidence, or things you've casually said, or terminologies, or kind of slogans or pronouns, and just kind of use it against you. And it's that kind of easy kind of manipulation, you know, in the sense of, like, you know, she's taking everything that has been technically been said and twisting into a narrative that isn't actually true, but is true in a sense. And, you know, she says very clearly in the film, you know, you can't deny these things didn't happen because they did. But it's just a point of view. But how can you prove a point of view? How can you prove context? How can you prove this? And this is the thing that's always in trials, always in cases. And, you know, social media definitely has their kind of viewpoints within kind of these high-profile kind of cases. And Oleanna is definitely much tapping into that kind of cancel culture, definitely tapping into that Me Too kind of movement. And, you know, who's right, who's wrong? You know, who's the individual behind those reasons? And, you know, it starts to get some more specific kind of terminology with, we represent the group, and who is the group? Is it all women? Is it just students? Is it the youth? You know, there's no specific kind of answer to that. I quite like that. And then it escalates to, you know, specific kind of, there's some really good lines in the film which I really like. Was like, you know, early portion he does grab in the sense of, because she's being hysterical, and she is, in my point of view anyway, she's being a little bit hysterical, and he's trying to say, no, don't leave, don't get frustrated, let me help you, and she doesn't like that. She hates it. She runs off and makes a big scene. And, you know, we're seeing it from a different point of view in that sense, but in the moment and in the situation, you know, we can't control what she's feeling, and she sees it as an aggressive, much more of a kind of devious kind of act, where he was seeing it as much more of a, oh no, I'm just trying to help, I'm trying to do something. And, you know, that's the line keeps getting drawn, and to a point where it literally gets to a great scene towards the end where it's like, oh, didn't you know? I thought you knew. Yeah, you try to do this to me, you try to do a certain thing to me, kind of thing. It's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, you did it. You know, you didn't mean to do it, but you did. You acted, you did something that you should have done, and I take it this way, and I've reported you that way. And it shows how words can be dangerous, and how point of views, how manipulative people can be, and how kind of horrible people can be in terms of, like, you know, situations. And it gets to the point where, like, you know, aren't you human, don't you have feelings? And that's used against him as well, and that's used against her. And, you know, both acting emotional, they're both acting kind of irrational, they're both the ending is quite shocking and quite kind of, you know, in the sense of, like, it's been building up, the tension's been building up to that point. William H. Macy is definitely a regular for David Mamet's kind of work. He's definitely popped up in quite a few of his movies, the ones I've seen up to this point anyway. He definitely pops up quite a few times, and he's a great actor. He's been in loads of stuff, you know, Fargo's definitely one of his biggest ones for sure. But nice to see a really kick-ass performance out of him, and the fact he's done this on stage, live stage, and kind of memorized all these dialogues and these big monologue sequences, and get the reaction times right, and the fact even the interviews where he's kind of talking about adding something new to the character and trying to change things up in the scene a little bit, but sticking to the material, sticking to the dialogue. The fact the actual secondary kind of leading performance is an understudy, which was the real life understudy for the stage play, and, you know, said, hey, look, you're fantastic, look, I'm just going to put you in the movie. I think it's a massive big deal. You know, it's like they say in the extras on the booklet, you know, he could have got anyone he wanted, any actress, but he decided to keep it close to home, keep it to, you know, the people that have been doing this, and the work's already been done. It's been done before. You just got to do it in a movie format, and it really is a fantastic movie to kind of explore, not in terms of a kind of one filmmaking, in terms of writing, in terms of dialogue, but just in terms of just, you know, your own point of view. It's a film, it's a thinking film, it's a film that's going to challenge you, and a film that's going to not necessarily going to make you feel happy and cozy and warm kind of thing like a big, you know, blockbuster film would, but a film that definitely will give you talking and give you creative. I like that. For anyone that likes kind of screenplays, anyone who likes the fan of his work, or anyone who likes movies that have really solid performances and just a nice tight sequence, nice tight, you know, location, Oleanna, I think, definitely will be something for you. Check it out for yourself, see what you think. Please comment down below, and I'll be back with some more David Mamet films very, very soon, guys. For the meantime, happy reviews. Signing out.